Hey, it's Manny Goldman, co-founder and CEO of ItsAllAboutWomen.com. I'm here with a dear friend of mine, Jennifer S. Wilkov. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Manny.
Hey. So Jennifer and I have been friends for over 7 years. We've been through what they call thick and thin.
Yes.
And everything in between. So this video is really all about how to overcome obstacles. Jennifer knows a little bit about overcoming obstacles. To name a few, we talked about this on the page. She's been through near-death experiences to divorce, the unimaginable of being incarcerated for a crime she didn't commit over 4 months in the country's most dangerous prison. And we're pretty much in the 4-year mark.
We are.
Amazing. 4 years ago today she was in jail. So I know that sounds crazy, but we're going to talk more about that and how that, whatever the equivalent is for you, this is your opportunity to learn 7 steps to be able to remain calm and handle the unimaginable in your life. So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about your story, and then what we'll do is we'll go more specific over time, so stay tuned with us. But give us an overview of your story, and then we're going to go over the 7 steps. And then we're going to give them some of the highlights. What are the most common questions? I've seen it over the last few years with It's All About Women. Some of the women talk about some of the things they've been through. And now's a great time of year. I mean, now is the time, or the time of the world, right?
Yep.
2012. People are dealing with things, so now's a very timely thing to talk about this. So please give us a little overview of your story.
Well, because it's 2012, a lot of people believe that the end of the world is coming at the end of the year. So while many of us don't think that it is, there are times in your life when you think that the end of the world is coming to you. And that's kind of what happened to me when I was working as a certified financial planner, and I was a decorated advisor at one of the top firms in the investment world. And what happened next was beyond what I ever would have thought could have happened to me or anybody else. And I was working as a certified financial planner, and I was referred an investment that I went to my compliance supervisor according to the industry rules, and I discussed it with him, and I asked him for advice. And he told me that the firm did not work with the type of real estate that I was talking about, which were hard properties that were homes, single-family homes, that were supposed to be rehabbed and flipped. Well, he told me what to do, which was his job and his role, and I followed it. So I did the industry paperwork that he asked me to do, and he signed off on it, and I referred those investments. And unfortunately, those investments became a scam. Now, I had invested in them, and my family had invested in them, and I was the one that found out that it was a scam and had no idea that that was what was happening. And I was the one that went into the Beverly Hills Police Department to report it, and all of a sudden, everything started falling apart in my entire life. Everyone started coming to me, and the legal authorities came to me, and suddenly I found myself in the middle of a fraud accusation, which made no sense, and I now had to get a criminal defense attorney, and I was a woman who basically had late parking tickets I had paid online. So I didn't know anything about the justice system or the legal system except for what I learned in 5th grade. Well, I got a tremendous education about how dysfunctional the criminal justice system is when the criminal defense attorney that I had misrepresented me and brought me to a point where he suggested very strongly that I plead guilty to a crime that I didn't commit. And I really fought against that because it didn't make any sense to me. But ironically, everywhere I went to go find another attorney, everybody kept turning me back to the same firm. So with time running out, I followed his advice and I pled guilty. And then, lo and behold, a couple of months later, during the sentencing hearing, or really in the same hearing just prior to the sentencing, that same attorney who had given me that advice asked the judge to withdraw and stop representing me, and left me without an attorney during my own sentencing, to which I was appalled because I was never informed. And so of course I asked to withdraw the plea that he had strongly suggested and told me to do, and I asked for a 2-week adjournment. Now, what you need to understand very quickly is that the Sixth Amendment in the Bill of Rights gives us the right to the attorney of our choice, and that's a very important right that we have. And in this case, the judge turned to me when I asked to exercise that right for 2 weeks and get another attorney. She said no. And she told me that I was going to Rikers Island that day. And as Manny said, that's one of the nation's most violent prisons. And she then turned to the same criminal defense attorney and asked him, after he had already said that he didn't want anything to do with me, to stand in so she could sentence me. And he did, and she did, and then she told me I could appeal when I get out. And off I went to Rikers Island with no address. The only things I had were sitting in a U-Haul storage unit, and I went away for 4 months into hell, where I spent 4 months in an open dormitory. So you watch Law and Order, and you may think that there are cell blocks. I was in an open room of 50 beds that basically put me in a position where I actually had no cell. I had no door, and everything that I had personally and any articles of items that I had were all exposed to be stolen, attacked, or anything else. So one of the most amazing things about this was I had visitors who came, like Manny, and others, who reminded me of who I was during this time, which was something very essential, and we're going to talk about that today during these 7 steps. And when I got out, I came out with no address, no bank accounts, and only the stuff that was in my storage unit. So I had to find my way back into my world, my life, and into helping others again, who were actually waiting for me to get out. So one of the things that I often talk about, which Manny knows, is that you have the right to remain fabulous under any circumstance, condition, or situation. And why do I know that? Because I basically have been to hell and back, and I'm sitting before you as someone who now has a bank account, who now has an address.
And sitting on your couch, right?
And we're on my couch. And I'm also in a position where I not only help people and serve people, but I'm also sought out to do the same and to speak to others. So I'm delighted to help you during our talk today to be able to understand why you have the right to remain fabulous and why it doesn't matter what situation you're living with or facing right now. We're going to talk about a few today, right, Manny?
We are. So we're talking about overcoming obstacles. So that's it's a bit of an obstacle, and we know it's not your first obstacle.
No.
We know it most likely won't be your last one, but you're going to do it a little bit differently. So let's give them the 7 steps, and throughout these 7 steps, I'd love for you to share some specifics about how you did that, or even some examples of how people that you've taught or spoke to. I think stories really help, really paint a bigger picture, because the words are easy and spoken, but if they can see it in application, I think it'll really help them. So let's start with step 1.
Great. Well, you know, oftentimes what happens, Manny, when something suddenly occurs, now this could be something that impacts you financially. Somebody like a business partner could steal something from you or embezzle money from your business, or they might leave you or threaten to close the business that you depend on your life and livelihood for. You might also find yourself in a situation where someone has died and they were the breadwinner in your home, so that could affect you. You may also find yourself in medical situations and all kinds of different opportunities that basically make you stand up and say, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And while you're able to maybe smile at it at this moment, some of you may not be smiling. And I'm really aware of that, where you may be watching this video going, yes, that's me. I am her. I'm that woman right now. What do I do? And the first step really is all of those feelings, all of those emotions that you have inside. One of the most important things that you can do is actually stay calm. Why? It almost sounds counterintuitive. Jennifer, you want me to be calm when my whole world is falling apart? Yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. The reason why is because when your emotions are high, it's very difficult for you to be paying attention to what it is that you need to see, hear, think about, consider, assess, ask, and pay attention to. And that could be anything, including your heart rate. It could be making sure that you don't pass out. It also could be paying attention to who's speaking. Who's the source of this information that you're getting right now? What is it that you need to consider? If I try to think about that while my hair is on fire, Manny, I can't think about it. I really can't. I can't think straight. And the decision that I make in that moment will hurt me and potentially not bring me to the best place that I need to go next. So if I actually do this in such a way where I could keep my emotions low, not turn them off so that I don't feel anything, but really bring my emotions down, then my intelligence and my ability to pay attention will go up. Now, one of the most important things that I needed to pay attention to, as you could probably tell from part of my story, was I needed to pay attention to what the criminal defense attorney was doing in my case. Because the information that I was getting didn't make sense logically to me. I'm a very logical person. I have good common sense. And what I was receiving really could have infuriated me and enraged me to such a place where I wouldn't be able to pay attention. This is really a very good example of being able to stay calm. When the New York City Police Department officers actually stopped me on the street to then take me to my apartment so they could get in my apartment to be able to search my apartment. I've never had anybody do that before. I've never had anybody stop me on the street. I've never had anybody threaten me from a police officer standpoint. And I've never had anybody take my cell phone away from me, and so on and so on. When you panic in a situation like that, if you get a medical diagnosis and all of a sudden you start, what am I going to do? You can't hear anything after that. It's very difficult for you to understand what's happening and also use your head. One of the most important things that happened to me when the New York City Police Department actually was doing this, and they threatened to break down my door, when I finally was able to make that phone call that you hear about to the attorney, they were already inside my apartment, and the attorney asked me on the telephone, "Where's the warrant?" I had never been presented with a warrant. If you know anything and nothing about the legal system, you're supposed to be given a warrant and shown a warrant before access is provided. That didn't happen in my case. So the second that he mentioned it, I wasn't hair on fire. I was, "Where's the warrant? Show me the warrant, because I need to be able to see that, because you guys are not supposed to be in my apartment without it." Boom, I was able to act immediately because I was in that place where I could hear what to do and act on it. That calmness makes such a big difference. When I was given a medical diagnosis of Crohn's disease and I was 11, I didn't know any better, and I was 11, and my parents actually were the ones that were supposed to stay calm. So parents, this is for you too. When it's not actually happening to you, but happening to a family member, it's important for you to also pay attention.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry. I was wondering if you can give the mind that's asking how some strategies, specific strategies on how to stay calm.
This is a really good question, because one of the things that we do when we start to get excited, both happy excited and oh my God excited, is think about what happens to you when you're on a roller coaster, Manny. You know how you hear that clicking sound and you're kind of going up in the car, and all of a sudden, you know, your breathing starts getting heavy and you're smiling, but you're anxious and your heart starts racing. You're like, "I know it's coming, I know it's coming," and then you click and you hear that last clickety-clack, and then whoosh, you know, all of a sudden you're like, "Ah!" You know? Well, that's what's happening inside your body when you hear something or you're told something or given something, that your brain now creates this, I'm about to go over that hill on the roller coaster and I have no idea where I'm dropping into. Like for me, I felt like I was dropping into a foreign country, like Alice in Wonderland or something. But for you, you may feel the same way. So one of the first things that you need to do is you need to go right to your breathing. And you need to pay attention, because one of the body's involuntary responses is breathing. We have to breathe in order to survive. Now, you might be breathing really in a shallow way with what's going on around you. So one of the best things you can do is go right to your breathing and start counting. Count to 8, so that by the time you're actually in a very grounded place, you should be able to count to 8 breathing in, and then count to 8 breathing out. What does that do? That slows you down. It slows your heart down, and it slows your mind down. So you get off the roller coaster. Now, remember, what I say is you have the right to remain fabulous. The thing is, what somebody just told you, Manny, like a moment ago, doesn't mean that you, Manny, are any different than you were 60 seconds earlier. You're the same person. You're still just as fabulous as you were a moment ago. Who changed that? Nobody. That's the reality of what happens in that split second when something changes. And all of a sudden, our brains go right up the roller coaster and start putting us in a position where we have no idea what's next. Now, the other thing that also puts us in that position, Manny, is just that. What's next? I can't figure out what's next. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know what kind of tests they're going to do. I don't know what's going to happen to my kids financially. How am I going to pay for my next rent or mortgage?
A lot of questions.
They really sit there and they can drive you crazy.
They can.
So, breathe. That one actual activity that you can take a hold of. You don't need to go get anything. You don't need any equipment, because you already have it.
It's all within you.
It's all inside you already. Is when you start breathing, your emotions will come down, and guess what will happen in your head? You'll start putting the puzzle pieces together. This is what I know, and this is what I don't know. And that's what we're going to talk about next.
That leads us perfectly into step number 2.
Now, step number 2 is, what you have to do in these cases is listen. If you don't listen, then you're actually not getting the information that you need. Because the worst thing that you can do is make an assumption. I mean, you know the whole thing about assume, right? Which is, we'll leave it to your imagination.
Down. 3 words.
First 3 letters, next 4th letter, and the last 2 letters. Read it out loud. So if you actually don't want to be in a confusing situation, the number one thing you can do is listen. Because that's where you're going to get the information. Now, here's the rule. Listen before you speak.
What did I say, 2 ears, 1 mouth?
Yes. And you know, one of the things that we do all the time is we forget about that ratio. Have you ever noticed, Manny, how sometimes when people get nervous, they start doing this?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because what happened? We're hearing the clickety-clack of the roller coaster and going, oh my God, this is so exciting. Oh my God, I can't believe it's coming. Oh my God, we're at the top and we're in the front car. I can't believe we're here. Shut up. One of the things that's really important is that if you stop talking, you'll now get more information so you can understand what you do know and what you don't know. If you listen, you'll know better what it is you need to find out. And for me, one of the most important things I needed to find out was not only what was happening to me, but also, how do I handle this? How is this going to impact me? Because when they searched my apartment, after they left, I went to my office where they had also been searching my office. And I had to understand what was happening so that I understood what did I have and what did they take, so I would understand whether I still was able to do business and make money during that period of time. And at that moment I was. But months later, when they came back to arrest me, I wasn't. So when you listen, you get information that you can then use to your advantage. If you don't listen and you talk, Manny, you're going to miss the opportunity to get that information from the people who know. One more thing. What's really important, we're going to talk about this in another step, is that you also need to figure out who are you listening to. Because it's one thing to listen, but it's another thing to better understand who's talking and which parts of what they're saying are important for you to get.
We can go deep into that. Listening
Yes.
to, I mean, a lot of people who want to lose weight, they might be listening to someone who's overweight, right? That's a problem. Or someone that's that's married, listen to someone who's been divorced. That's one part of it. The other part of it is listening to their own mind, and they're asking disempowering questions, right?
Yes.
Instead of the questions that may lead them to what they want, or these questions that lead them towards what they don't want.
That's right.
And we can have a video just on that.
Yes.
Let's go into let's go back to the 7 steps. So step 1 is staying calm, breathing through the circumstance, because all you have at that moment is your breath, right?
That's right. You have yourself.
That's it.
So
and
that's
your higher
who you
power,
rely-
depending on what you believe, right?
That's right. That's what you rely on, is you. Stay calm.
2 is listen. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Step 3.
What you have to do in that moment of being calm and listening is now you have to assess what you hear. Remember I was just talking about consider the source? So what you have to figure out is, what do you know right now? What do you not know right now? And what's real? Now, let me talk about what's real for a moment. We have this amazing thing called the brain. Inside that brain, that big head of ours, right? We have this massive imagination. Guess what we do with it? We scare the living daylights out of ourselves.
We rarely see the best case scenario, right? We typically see the worst case scenario.
We do.
Yeah.
And so we sit there and we say, oh my God, the sky is falling. How many of you know about Chicken Little? And it's really confusing because all of a sudden we think the very worst possible thing that could happen is about to happen to us. Well, let me give you some pointers on this. What do you know? What do you not know? And be real. Figure out what's real for you and figure out what's not real. Because if you spend all your time and energy, Manny, on what's not real, you're going to waste all of that energy and effort on things that you cannot control and things that aren't really happening yet. You know that self-fulfilling prophecy thing that people talk about all the time?
People call it the law of attraction, right?
Yes. What are you going to do? I mean, part of this is you have this amazing energy within you. You can direct it anywhere you want. Why not direct it at what's real and address that? This is also like crisis management, right? So if you're in a situation where, let's say that you have a relationship that all of a sudden goes right into the cellar and suddenly you're alone. Maybe you've been with somebody for years, maybe. And all of a sudden, what you knew to be real is gone. Well, that's devastating.
Oh, yeah.
And especially for a lot of women, it could be absolutely damaging. What do you know? What do you not know? And what's real? When you are willing to face what's real, look, I had people telling me, look, you could be arrested and you could go to jail for this. I was like, for what? Why? What's really happening here so I could understand it in such a way that I could direct my energy in the right places so that I could make the best decisions possible. This is something that will take you time to master, but you have to master it in a moment, Manny, when it happens.
It's
Don't
going to
worry.
happen. It's
And
inevitable. It's going to happen.
your skill level at this makes no difference. The objective is to remember 3 things. What do I know? What don't I know? And what's real?
And that changes over time, doesn't it?
It does.
One phone call, one moment, you learn something new,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely. And then you add this. It's almost like, if you've ever looked at accounting, they actually use something called a T-chart. So some people use it for an analysis where they'll do pros on one side and cons on the other. Or in accounting, they'll do assets, your positive things, and liabilities or negative things on the other side. This is a great way if you need to write it down. But this is what I know on one side, and this is what I don't know on the other side. And guess what? When you don't know, now you need more information. So what do you have to do? You have to stay calm, and you have to listen.
Go back to step one. Beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you. So assessing is absolutely very important.
Absolutely.
So we went through step 1, 2, and 3. What's next? Step 4.
Well, you know, we, especially as women, it does happen to men, but especially women, and this actually comes from my co-author of one of my books, Boys Before Business. And we talk about this a lot when it comes to relationships, and it applies here. And we talk about avoiding what we call FOBFO. That is actually an abbreviation that represents FOBFO, freaking out before finding out. Have you ever noticed how when something happens, all of a sudden you freak out, you exhaust yourself, you turn to 3 people that you know and you start talking about it, and you don't even know yet. You haven't even found out what's happening, or what's really going to happen to you, or what you need to do. But you're busy freaking out, making all these phone calls, sending off all these text messages or email, right? And you don't even know yet. Why are you going to spend all that time, energy, and effort freaking out when you're going to need all that later? So you have to avoid this freaking out part. It's different than staying calm, and it's different than listening. And when you're calm and you're listening, you're able to assess. When you're assessing, avoid freaking out. Because remember that list of things that you don't know yet? That's where the freak out lives.
The control. The wanting to control, needing to control, needing to
That,
remember.
oh, that agonizing need to control whatever is happening to you, and knowing what's going to happen a week from now. I just need to know. You know, I actually have a friend who I love dearly who just had open heart surgery a week ago.
How's she doing, by the way?
She's great. She just came home from the hospital.
Wonderful.
Actually, this weekend. And one of the things that we actually talked about was that she actually used some of these steps.
Really?
Yes. And the step that we're talking about, avoid freaking out before finding out. Look, when you have open heart surgery, there are very real statistics about whether you're going to survive or not. When you're in a position like I was, where you're accused of a crime that you didn't commit, depending on the state that you live in and the criminal justice system you're dealing with, you actually have statistics that are working against you. Okay? Yes, you have statistics that are working for you, but I can tell you that if what happened to me had happened in Massachusetts, the likelihood of what happened to me wouldn't have happened. And that's a fact. But I've learned that after the fact. So, when you are in a situation and you're listening and you hear something, Manny, that goes into your assessment, please don't get on the roller coaster and start freaking out.
But when you do, get off.
Get off.
Remember this, right?
Remember that before you freak out, before you find out, ask yourself this. This is a great calming question. Okay? Do I really know? Fill in the blank. Do I really know if my child is hurt? I just got the call from school. Do I really know if my friend is off the table in surgery, in open heart surgery? No, I don't really know. Could I sit there all day obsessing about, oh my God, I could be in hell in 4 months? Of course you could. And why bother? You know this about me.
Yeah.
I always say, why bother? Why are you going to do that to yourself? It's really not going to serve anybody, mostly you. So avoid freaking out before finding out so you can actually do these steps and make sure that you get the information that you need, because what you're going to need to do, Manny, if you don't know, is you're going to have to ask. So you can't freak out.
You know, the steps 2, 3, and 4, a lot of it was avoiding assumption, right? Our friend's assumption.
Yes.
Now step 5 is getting some clarity, it sounds like.
It is, because
Support.
now that you know what you don't know, and you've identified it as best as you can, now it's time to ask for help and support. And one of the last things that we tend to do as human beings, and especially as women, Manny, is we always feel like asking for help is weak.
We always go to you to help, ask for help. Right?
And that's part of it. No matter where you are on that scale, in your family, in your friends, at your office, oftentimes if you're that person where everybody comes and they ask for help, and yes, a lot of people come and ask me for help, it's one of the most valuable lessons I learned, was that we don't know it all. And I never believed that I did. But when you are in a situation where you have nothing, where everything has been taken from you, it's time to ask for help. Because that support structure that you build around you, and that you build from the right information, from the right people, you have to be able to ask for help so that you know what it is that you are not aware of, that you need to understand. Now, this is a very important story that I want to share with you. Actually, there are 2 of them. One you participated in.
All right, here we go.
Okay? So, one of the things that I got to a point with in this journey and experience, which you know, is I got to a place in time where I couldn't buy food anymore. And I had no bank accounts. You know how you go to an ATM and you put your card in and cash comes out? I didn't have that. That was taken away from me. So one of the things that I did have was an amazing mastermind group of 4 people, of which I was one, where we would talk on the telephone, and we all worked in different businesses, and we all supported each other based on our skill sets and what it was that we knew. So my mastermind team, which Manny was in, actually knew what was happening to me and supported me positively. And one day it was my turn for my session, and I said, okay, in this hour we're going to figure out how Jennifer gets to eat. And there was silence on the other end of the phone, and we were really serious. I really needed to understand how I was going to eat in this situation. And in 1 hour we created a program called Lunch with Jennifer, because like you said, Manny, everybody comes and asks me for help. They want my insights, they want my perspective, they want my years of strategic planning and business development. They want to know how to write and structure a book and get published. They want to know all kinds of things. But one of the things that we figured out was that I needed to remain fabulous and honor the value that I was providing. I needed to eat. I needed food. I had something to offer in exchange. Lunch with Jennifer was a program we developed and designed, and my mastermind team helped me set up a web page for it, where in return for a lunch at the place of my choice, because I have certain health requirements that I need to make sure that I can eat in places that I go, for about an hour or an hour and a half was our decision. Anywhere in that time frame, people could take me out to lunch, and what they would receive was my brain. They would be able to pick my brain for anything that they wanted. And I created business plans, I helped to outline books, I helped people understand the publishing process, I helped people create book ideas, business ideas, take their businesses to the next level. And 3 times a week, remember? 3 times a week, I would eat at Zagat-rated restaurants through the Lunch with Jennifer program. Now, this was really something that was remarkable, because all of us were like, wow, this is not about money, this is about surviving. But one thing that I want you to understand is I went to the right people and I asked them for help. Now, they had never been faced with anything like this. They had never been faced in a situation where they couldn't eat and they couldn't go to an ATM. So this was very real for me. And they didn't freak out and they didn't get on the roller coaster of anxiety. We all took it very seriously. And for an hour, we solved the problem. Here's another one that I'd love to talk about. I was about to potentially be sentenced to jail. I had never been in jail before. And nobody that I knew had been in jail before. So nobody could tell me what it was going to be like inside. But more importantly, Manny, nobody could tell me what I needed to know before I got inside. Now here's the most important thing that I did. I didn't go to the people who had never been inside. I called my Aikido sensei, Don Cardoza, at the Wellness Resource Center in North Dartmouth, Massachusetts. And I told him, I really can't believe I'm telling you this, but I think I might be going to jail. And this is what he said. I want you to come up to the dojo. And we made an appointment for me to come up and visit. And Manny, he was the one. He was the only person that I knew who really knew what I was going to go up against. This was a man who had been a street fighter when he was younger. And in his dojo, he had both a corrections officer and a police officer who both worked in the Massachusetts system. So he had enough information to understand what he needed to help me understand and do in a lot of different situations. And because I asked him for help and him for support and direction, I survived. Because many of the things that we talked about came to pass. And because I followed his instructions and I asked the right person and listened to him, and I didn't freak out when he started telling me certain things or have me do certain things. Here's a good example really quickly. He asked me, don't you think you should cut your hair before you go inside? Manny, I said no. You know, I'll tie it up, so that it's like very tight to my head in a bun. And this is exactly what he did. He grabbed the top of my head and dragged me by my hair all over that room. And when he was done, he let go. And he was taller than I was. And he looked at me and he said, now what do you think? And I said, I think I better cut my hair. And he said, hair is a weapon. Everything around you is a weapon, and you won't know it. So, why would he know that, and other people wouldn't? Ask the right source, ask the right person for information. And then, be thoughtful about the information that you get. Remember that assess step we talked about?
Step 3.
So we decided that I was going to cut my hair. But I have very healthy hair. I have very happy, healthy hair. So we weren't just going to cut it off and throw it in the trash. Because we all decided, remember the mastermind, plus I asked a few other women to look at where are the places that accept hair and that look for healthy hair to help others. And we looked at the places for kids with cancer. We also looked at places for women. So we all voted, and we selected the Pantene Beautiful Lengths program, which provides human hair wigs for women that are going through treatment for ovarian and breast cancer. So we didn't just cut it off, we did something with it. Because we were able to keep those emotions low and our intelligence high enough where we could make those types of decisions instead of freaking out going, okay, it's 4 weeks to go, 3 weeks to go, 2 weeks to go. Do you know when I cut my hair? Do you remember? The day before I was sentenced, I cut it. And my best friend was the one that mailed it in to the program.
That's about 4 years ago, almost to the day, right?
Almost to the day of this video, yeah.
Amazing.
Almost to the day.
But I would say, look, since I was involved in the situation, even to this day, you always find your way to have a very good moral support in your life, family, friends, and then when people don't work out, sometimes you move on with grace and being fabulous.
That's a very good point. One thing that you have to understand is that just because somebody doesn't know, and just because they can't help you in the way that you want them to, doesn't mean that they're not fabulous people. And it also doesn't mean that they're not supporting you in the best way they know how. So that's a really good distinction for you to remember, is that you may want people to do something for you, but they may not be capable, Manny. And for you to allow them to be the blessed person that they are and be real, be who they are, not pretend. One of the biggest mistakes that people can make is pretend to help someone in a way that they're not sure how to do it, especially when it's this devastating and this damaging.
So a lot of people couldn't handle it, if you remember. People just freaked out.
People ran with their hair on fire in the other direction. Maybe you know what that feels like.
Sure.
And then there are other people who come running to you and want to help you and support you. So remember, ask the right people for what they know and what you know you think they know, and ask them, I need help with this. Do you know, or do you know someone who can help me? So that you don't burden them by, they have to know. Oh my God, Manny, you have to know. Otherwise, my whole world is going to crash. No, ask Manny, do you know, or is there someone that you know that can help me with blank?
Yes.
That's more powerful and more empowering, and it keeps Manny positive, which is what we're going to talk about next.
Ooh. The P's. Step 6.
P's. Understanding why a positive perspective is so important in these situations is essential for you to survive and thrive. Even in the worst situation you could possibly imagine at this moment, your positive outlook, your positive perspective, and your positive outcome that you focus on. If I think about something that seems incredibly far-fetched to everybody else, and I've been in this situation more than once, and I focus on the outcome that I want to have that's super positive, and people will look at the situation, other people, and think to themselves, she's nuts. There's no way this is ever going to happen. And then all of a sudden, it happens. And they look at me and they say, how did she do that? Here's the secret. And I don't mean the secret. I mean a really important thing for you to understand that you can practice in your own world. Be positive. Focus on the positive parts of what's happening. Understand what the positive outcome is that you want to happen. When I do that, Manny, my actions, my words, what I think about, and what I end up actually executing are so different than if I start thinking about negative things. When people are negative, their energy level drops. Their ability to act drops and slows down. And then they get mired and buried in all of these outcomes that really don't have to happen.
Right.
But then
they're living it without it even happening, right?
Also, they're feeling it.
Right.
They're living it, they're feeling it, they're losing sleep, and it hasn't even happened.
You talked a lot about control in the beginning, right? Freaking out because you want to control it. Well, this step 6 is really the only thing you can actually control.
It's a very important part of what you can control, because if you are up to the challenge and willing to control it, this big thing that's sitting inside your head, your brain, if you're willing to keep that focused on what's positive, perspective, outlook, and outcome, positive, 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 guess what you'll actually create? Positive. It's almost like when you go to your car, when you have to jump start your car and you have to get those clamps on the right things. Now we
Red
as
is
women,
positive, right?
Yes.
Black is negative.
And the weirdest thing in all of this is the following. Most women not all women, but most women are not savvy when it comes to jump starting your car.
You could say that. If I said that, that wouldn't be too good. I'm glad you said it.
And I can raise my hand because I took a mechanic class to understand this. But one of the things that I know is that we're also not always in the best state of mind to jumpstart our brain. if you actually keep yourself in a positive place, and Manny, catch yourself. If you hear yourself boo-hooing.
You mean don't wait till the battery dies?
Exactly. If you find yourself or hear yourself saying something that's just not very positive, listen, put the brakes on and say, whoa, wait a minute. Where am I going with this? Because I will bet you that it's not where you want to end up.
No.
And if you can actually change your course and turn that wheel, turn your brain towards the direction that is the positive outcome that you want to get. Look at me. I was actually in a hearing last year in the financial industry. So you have the criminal justice system, you have the federal court systems, and in the financial world, you have the financial industry that has its own body, its own governing body. I was in a hearing last year where in that hearing, all charges against me, not just fraud, but withholding material facts, failure to disclose, and breaching my franchise agreement were denied in their entirety. They looked at all of the evidence, and my compliance supervisor at the firm in that hearing admitted that he was internally disciplined and reprimanded for his lack of compliance supervision of me in this situation with these investments. 3 years after I had gotten out of prison for something that I didn't do. Now, I'm sure for many of you, you would be enraged. My positive outcome has continued beyond just going to jail. And what I did inside was so beyond what people could understand. I helped other people learn how to read. I helped them understand the value of meditation. I also helped one woman tremendously in her own personal growth to come to a place where she could actually like herself and love herself, which she didn't.
She created purpose in an unimaginable situation.
And I just knew, even though my life was going to be unknown when I got out of this horrible prison, I focused on the positive outcome that I could actually create the life that I wanted to live, even with all of these things that had happened to me, all the things I had lost, all the things people had taken away from me, and all of the accusations that had been made. I knew in my heart that I could remain fabulous, and I could actually do it. Now you talk about a challenging positive outcome. Everybody was like, I want to help her with that. I want to be a part of that. Have you ever noticed that when you're really positive, Manny, people come. People come to support you.
They get attracted to it like a magnet.
They do. And they want to lend whatever they have to help you. Positive, positive, positive.
Magnets. I love it. No, because, you watch CNN. Other people might call it constant negative news. It attracts a different audience. So, but those are the people you want in your life, right? The people who would love to see you achieve. And I'd love for you to share, even after we get to step 7, is what is that positive outcome? So we can put it out there, and we can all cheer you on with it, because I know there's some really cool stuff coming up. So let's get to step 7, so we could wrap up the 7 steps, and we'll do a little recap. But step 7.
Well, one of the things with step 7, now, you know how everything is chronological here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's very important that you understand these steps, because step 7 is about moving and taking action, and oftentimes that's where our greatest fear lives. What if I actually do something? How is it going to affect me? Now, if I'm in a situation like I was, where I was facing this horrible accusation, I was so thoughtful about everything that I was doing, because everything that was happening to me was a misperception of what was going on. How was I going to handle that? And if a misstep occurred on my part, what would happen to me if I made a mistake in these particular circumstances? Could it have made what was already devastating worse?
Sure.
Oh my gosh. Nobody knew what I was supposed to be doing.
And just not to mention, you also had family members and friends that were part of the investors, and there's just, yeah, I mean, there's people you were seeing, right, at different events, and
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, what happens when you have to face the very people who are confused by what's been going on? And then they're told that you're one of the people that was involved, which is false. What are they supposed to believe? Am I supposed to hate them? Or am I supposed to understand that they were given information that was false? What do? Well, you have to move and take action. You have to take the very best action that you can based on what you know and based on the information that you have. If you move, things will change. When you open your mouth and say something, things will change. If you know that you need to write a letter, if you know you need to send an email, if you know you need to buy something or you need to get access to something, it's not about the fear of, look at me, I had no money. I had no transportation. I had very, 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 very little.
No home for several months.
I had no home. But I asked, I moved, I took the actions that I possibly could to make it possible for me to stay alive. You know, it's really interesting. We just did exactly what we were talking about. We took action, we didn't freak out, we stayed calm,
We
laughed.
Calm. We did.
We actually laughed. And we listened and basically assessed what we should do. And we said, hey, let's actually make you a part of what's happening with us right now. We took action. We moved. We used the best possible thing that we could do. Yes, of course, we could have said, oh, we're perfect. You know?
So rigid and so perfect.
Why? You see, one of the things that's really important for you to understand is that when you take that very best action you possibly can, something is going to change, Manny. Something new is going to be present in the situation. Now, you may be saying, but Jennifer, what if it's something bad? Well, number one, it will be different. And number two, aren't you taking the very best action that you can based on the information that you have? One of the things that we talk about a lot that I love, and you know I love, is that the only difference between you and what you want is the gap of information in between them. So if you don't know, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and I'm sure many of you have heard that, that's what's sitting in that chasm, or if for those of you who have been to the Grand Canyon, that's what's, I love it there, that's what's sitting between you, oftentimes, and what you want. So how do you get there? How do I get to the place where I knew the positive outcome? I knew I was innocent. How was I going to get to the point where people understood that I was innocent? I needed to act. I needed to do things so that I didn't do what everybody was expecting me to do. Everybody was expecting that I would go crawl under a rock and disappear forever. And I said, no.
That's not your MO.
That's not what I know how to do.
That's not you.
What I know how to do is say, hi, my name is Jennifer, and how can I help you? I may have nothing. I may have no money. I may have no home. I may have no place to live. But I have something to give. And by taking that action, I was able to eat. By taking that action, I was able to find a place where I could actually live temporarily from place to place. Just before and right after I went into and got out of jail. Remember, I had no address. I had no address. Was I just going to say, okay, I have no address? How are people going to understand that? One of the things that people often talked about, Manny, during that time period, I went to networking meetings. I made it to other meetings.
You were forthcoming. You weren't hiding it from anybody else.
I told everybody, I told my mastermind group, I said, this is what's happening, and I'm here to help you, and I'm still here. I'm still present, and I'm still here to do my part of what I committed to, and I kept my commitments. And many of you might say, I couldn't do that. I have had many people who have come up to me and who have said, I don't know how you did that. I would look at you and I didn't actually know what was going on because you didn't look like anything was going on.
Mm-hmm. You were businesses, you were starting businesses, writing books.
I was.
You were remaining fabulous all the way through.
I did. And that's what's so important about step 7 is that when you move and you take the best possible action you can, every day, take at least one action. Do one activity. Either move something forward that you've already started or start something. Get going. You can't just sit there and think positive, positive, positive. I will tell you, even myself, that's not enough. You have to move and you have to make it happen. I have this nickname that everybody loves that I was given, which is the Make It Happen Girl. Now, some people say, oh, she has a magic wand. Well, honestly, I really don't. What I have a knack for is understanding what's the highest and best action you can take today based on what you're telling me you said you wanted. I do this with everybody. More importantly, I do it with myself. And I don't give myself exceptions. Oh, Jennifer, you don't have any money. No reason to take any action today. Are you kidding? No. What can I do that doesn't require money? What can I do to find somebody that I can ask a question of? Does that really require money? Probably not. It just depends. And what you have to keep in mind is, are you willing, Manny? Are you willing? You have to ask yourself, when that devastating, damaging, or unimaginable situation happens to you, are you willing to remember these steps? These are the steps that keep you sane. These are the steps that not only help you survive, they help you to remain fabulous, which is your right. And they also help you to get to the positive outcome that you're seeking. And it may be against incredible odds like me. I'm sitting here telling you from a place of experience, you can be a make it happen person too. You have every ability and every right to make it happen for yourself. So, one of the things that I want you to keep in mind is this. In order for you to stay in the game, your head has to be in it. If you don't keep your head in the game, you've already lost. So why bother? Keep it going. Stay calm. Listen. Assess. Stop freaking out before you find out what's real, right? Then what you need to do is ask. You have to be able to ask for support. And not just anybody. You have to ask the right person. Or the best person you know. And it doesn't have to be them. And the other part of that is you have to accept what it is that someone is capable of providing. So remember, don't force them, ask them. Then remember that positive outlook, that positive perspective, and keep that positive outcome in your field of vision. Remember Field of Dreams?
Great movie.
Great movie. He had a positive outcome. Everybody thought he was crazy. I know what that feels like. Maybe you do too.
Got a great philosophy on that one. If everyone thinks you're crazy, you're onto something. Especially the people who think you're crazy, you don't want the outcomes they have.
Oftentimes you don't. And some people may not even be able to understand why you would have that kind of outcome. What's most important is that you understand what's the right and positive outcome you would like to have. Now, what happens if it doesn't happen and you get something else? Sometimes we don't know all of the things that could be a positive outcome. We may have an idea of what we think the positive outcome is. So when something else happens, I just want to help you with this certain type of outcome. You don't always need to look at it and say, but that's not what I asked for.
Give it back.
Sometimes you get exactly what it is that you were supposed to get at that moment. And that is a positive outcome. Stay positive. Look at the positive side. When things happen to me, just like in these situations, and there were many, many, many of them, you know, I had somebody who actually had said to me, I called her, she's a dear friend of mine that we both know, who's actually in California. And I called her and I said, oh my God, I think there's a possibility I might be going to jail. And she said, Jennifer, you know, if you call me one more time with this, every time you call me from now on, I'm going to say, congratulations, you're going to jail. And I'm going to applaud from 3,000 miles away. And she did. And what she explained to me, she said, this is one of the best things that's ever going to happen to you. And I was like, you are nuts. You've got to be out of your mind. Every call that I made to her, yes, I kept calling her, was congratulations, you're going to jail. Can you imagine being on the other end of that phone line? Positive outcome. She knew that one of the most important things I was going to do with what was happening to me was help others, like you. And then the seventh step, take the action. Move. Get off the dime. Get going around that track. Do something every day. At least one thing a day. Because then you are going to decide. You will be able to control what you can control. And you will let go of the things that you can't control. You'll stop wasting your energy. You'll stop wasting your time. You'll stop wasting whatever money you do have. And start putting those energy, efforts, and resources, asking the people, the friends that you have, for what it is you really need so you can move the ball forward. Imagine what you could do when you actually exercise your choice, Manny. You can remain fabulous all the time. It never left you. From the moment that you took that first breath, you had the right to remain fabulous. And you know, Manny, you have the right to remain fabulous now.
That's true. Do you have a gift for them?
I do have a gift. You know, one of the things that oftentimes happens when I speak, because I speak publicly to groups and love doing it, is people say, oh, I wish I had written that down. So, what we did is we actually put together a gift for you so that you can actually hang this, which many people have done, somewhere where you can see the 7 steps, so that when that unimaginable, devastating, or damaging situation happens to you, you can remind yourself of the fact that you do have the right to remain fabulous. And wait a minute, what was it that she said? Stay calm, listen. What do I know right now? What's real? Let me lock into that. Oh, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out. Stop. I need to find out before I drive myself crazy. And I need to ask somebody. And I need to stay positive. Oh yeah, Manny, I gotta do something. I gotta figure out what that is.
When you're positive, you're gonna have some inspiration, some ideas, some next steps. Listen to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's amazing to see this unfold. So I'm gonna actually do a few things.
Sure.
Those who are not you. Those who are watching and listening. First, I'm gonna ask you to download this. It's a free gift. You don't have to opt in. It's not one of those things. Go to this page, enter your email address, and give your firstborn and get something. No. Download it here for free. Print it out. It's yours. The link below. I'm also gonna ask you to share this video. There's a lot of people suffering in pain. You might not even know they're in pain. So if you feel inspired by even any of the 7 steps or the whole 7 steps, I'm going to ask you to share this video, and you have all the tools below, whether that be from Facebook, Twitter, your email, and the like, to share this page now and share this interview. I'm going to ask you to go to Jennifer's website, Jennifer S. Wilcov with a K, jenniferswilcov.com. The link will be below as well. So you have a lot of links below, huh?
I know.
But really, just using this video as an example, you saw how the video went out. Uh-oh, what do we do now? Luckily, we had a backup. We plugged it in, and within seconds, we had a new video. So we kind of merged them together. So we didn't leave you, right? We didn't try to pull a switch and edit this out. So I'm going to ask you to do those things. If you want to learn more about Jennifer, she has a lot of information on her website. Jennifer and I, again, have been friends for 7 years, and we put on many more.
Yes.
And we support each other constantly, consistently. And I just really want to thank you for allowing me in your life. We went through that experience together.
You did.
That was
Thank you.
unimaginable, but also an amazing experience. It really helps build friendship and character in a lot of ways. Usually when you go through certain situations with people, you do go closer to that experience, especially things that are just unimaginable or you don't know how to do that. You wouldn't do it again, but you wouldn't change it for the world, right? So I would like to leave it with one last thing, if we can, is to share your positive outlook as an inspiration for those who are listening, saying, oh my gosh, my life isn't so bad, or this situation isn't that bad. What's next? What are some of the fun things along this story? Because there's a lot of things going on in your life, but specifically with this story that you shared, I know there's some, I don't know if you're able to share, but some of the things that either that are in motion or things that you see happening, whether they're in motion yet or not.
Well, there are two things that we all always had a sensation about, and the positive reinforcement, I'll call it, of the outcomes for the book about my story and the movie, the feature film. And right now, at this moment, I am writing the book. And many, many people have said to me, I gotta read your story. I really do. I've watched that video on your website, or I've heard you speak, or I've done something like we've done today with this video. I really want to read your whole story because I just can't believe what happened to you. But more than that, I can't believe how you handled it, and I really want to better understand that. So I am writing the book, and it will be published. And the other part of it has always been that I am a giver. I'm one of those people who love to serve others. And one of the highest and best ways that we all always felt this experience would serve humanity was through a major motion picture. And a major motion picture is something that reaches people at such a level that they're able to watch and better understand human behavior. What happened to somebody? What choices did they make? Why did they make them in that moment? And how did they get to the other side of them? Have you ever noticed that in films? And we really love them.
I love the inspiration, the underdog.
And we watch them over and over and over again because we're constantly getting something new from those films. That's one of the other things that's happening for me right now, is ever since I came out of Rikers Island, it started with Marie Claire magazine coming to me and asking me for an exclusive magazine article. And I said yes, and I wrote that with the deputy editor at that magazine at the time. And that article went on to make me an award-winning freelance writer. And we won one of the most prestigious awards in the magazine publishing field with that article. Now, I wrote that article because they asked me to help other people understand what had happened to me. I didn't do it for the award. I did it because I wanted to help people. Then people started reading that magazine article in the Hollywood film industry, and they started coming and knocking on my door saying, we want that story. Well, recently we got a very important call from someone who really makes a lot of films happen, 89 of them to date, and many of them which you know. And they called us for the story, and we are in the process of getting it to them. So those are my two big positive outcomes that I feel extremely privileged, Manny, and really blessed to be able to do, because if this hadn't happened to me, I would probably be the happiest certified financial planner, still helping families and couples and people, individuals, with their finances to live the lives that they've imagined. But I'm not. I'm doing this, which is serving humanity in such a bigger and different way. And I feel so connected and so passionate about what I do in helping you understand that you have the right to remain fabulous and having you get the positive outcomes that you've set for yourself. Manny, you know I love doing this, and I love helping the people that are in your community and beyond. So I really wish for you who are watching this right now, that when this video ends, ask yourself this: what's my big positive outcome that I really, 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 really want? And ask yourself, do you have the right to remain fabulous? And then I want you to smile your big smile and say yes, because you do.
That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Stay tuned. Bye.
Bye.